You're listening to Entrepreneur Encounter, the podcast where soft skills meet real talk for creative business owners who are building with purpose. I'm Dana, a Pinterest marketing strategist and agency owner helping wedding pros and creative entrepreneurs get seen without burning out.
And I'm Sarah, a business and team strategist who helps small teams and podcasters communicate clearly, lead with empathy, and grow sustainably. Together, we're unpacking the messy, meaningful side of entrepreneurship, from boundaries to burnout, leadership to listening, so you can build a business that actually fits your life. Dana, remember last week when you said you'd quickly update that client's Pinterest strategy and you thought it would only take about 30 minutes? What actually happened?
I do remember that. It definitely took more than 30 minutes. I think it took me 45 minutes just to deep dive into the keyword research and the rabbit hole that can come from finding the really getting into the mindset of this client's user or audience of what they are looking for, because that's really what you need to think about when you're on Pinterest is not, well, this is what I want people to understand. It's what are your ideal audience's pain points and how do they think? How do they search? And use that to guide them to your things. So I definitely took longer than expected. I still met my goal, but it definitely took more than 30 minutes like I originally planned of getting these things mapped out and set up, which is why I usually do now give myself that grace period and tell clients, like, give me a few days so that I can break down your strategy. First day is keywords, and then I take those keywords, and the next day we map out your bio and your boards and potential pin content for what you already have. And then the next day I go and I take all of that information and start mapping out, because during our call, like, we look at content that you already have. I never approach a strategy session of here's the content you need to create just so you can get on Pinterest. I look at the content you already have sitting there getting dusty in the virtual space and break it down into how it can be an evergreen lead magnet so that you can repurpose it, dust it off, get it back out there and attracting your ideal audience, because you put a lot of time into creating it. Now let's make sure people find it.
Yeah, no, it's so funny when we think about the projects that we work on or any tasks. And yes, we have done it before, but more often than not, it's going to take longer than 30 minutes. And this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about time blindness, because we get so excited working on a project. We might have done it before for another client, but then in the end, we realize that it's going to take a lot more time to do that. And this is where the soft skill of actually understanding how long it's going to take and why our creative brains struggle with this. I can say, yes, I want to write this blog post. It's going to take me an hour, but then you have to go back and, edit, and then you have to go back and make a graphic for it. So whatever the case may be, you have to give yourself time and then also communicate that with your client saying, hey, I would love to get this done in this amount of time, but given the fact that I'm going to need all this other information, it's going to take longer than expected. And then when you communicate that is telling your clients that you care about what you're working on for them.
I think also it just helps you have a reality check. And I think I recommend, and we talked about this recently on a local mastermind of my co-working space, Alchemy, is you need to time yourself with a bunch of different variables. Time yourself on doing that task or completing a task when you have zero distractions and you're locked in.
Mm-hmm.
But you also need to time yourself if you have kids or you're a caretaker in any way or some other variable that you can't lock in 100%, but it still needs to get done. You need to time yourself on how long it takes you to do that, because it might double it. It might only take an extra 10 minutes, but you have to include that buffer when you sit down or you're looking at the week ahead and that's going to be a balancing act this week, but I still have to get this Pinterest account set up. So if I can't find a pocket of time where I can lock in and I know it's only going to take me 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, then I need to have that buffer time to knock it out,
Mhm.
which is the tiny bit of distractions that may pop up from being a working from home parent.
Isn't it fun, right? So it's like, we're getting back into the routine of things, and obviously, coming back from summer break with our kids, and there was a lot of distractions, yes, but I think when you plan ahead, that definitely helps as well.
So for me, at the time of this recording, we started back to school on Wednesday, and it was a staggered entry for my daughter. And so it's been really interesting to see even just that small shift of what I can get done versus what I was getting done even last month when it was me and all the children. Because at any given point, I had 4 or 5 daggum kids running around my house and trying to keep them not necessarily entertained because they're old enough to kind of do it themselves, but they still needed guidance and direction. And sometimes I had meetings, and so I had to plan accordingly and, just balance everything. But I think utilizing non-traditional means to grow helped me on the time management. So yes, I had to lock in and create pin content, but now I know it's working in the background and it's flowing not only for myself, but for my clients. So they are not getting overwhelmed as much because they know that somehow, some way, their content, their services are being found and filling their funnels to guide new people to their services or conferences or book launch or anything else that they're doing.
When I think about the time management and making sure that you're not blind to the time are like workflows and standard operating procedures. I know that might sound scary to a lot of people because it can be daunting to create them, to be quite honest, but you definitely need them. So for example, as I work with, our podcast and my other podcast clients, knowing that these workflows are going to help us in the long run. And having, let's say, your tasks in a project management tool. So let's say that you're planning out a month's worth of episodes. You need to make sure that everything is lined up in a way that it makes sense. So now when you go into doing something, you kind of have an idea of the time that it's going to take you. And again, going back to planning ahead, you can do this week by week. I personally love going in on Sundays. I know people don't work on Sundays, but this helps me look at, everything that's going on during that week. If I have any personal appointments, block that out. If I have meetings, making sure that there is, again, that buffer between the meetings. And if I see that there's something missing, then I will take note of that and reach out to whomever that I need to reach out and saying, hey, we need this to make sure that a task gets done efficiently so that we're able to make sure that our clients are happy because we want our clients to be happy, right?
Absolutely. So I'm going to give a not so pretty real world behind the scenes. This is what happened to me because during the summer when it was busy, like I said, I had a bunch of kids, and one of my services that I offer is low ticket, high value. It's the pin and forget it. We go in and we brand your things for you very quickly, still professionally, but in theory, it's supposed to be very quick. So I sat down to do a couple of Pinterest rebrands through that service because it's once a week. It's a chaotic week when I have to do all of them because I am a solopreneur, and so I don't outsource this just yet. So I was like, we're just going to swap out colors. We're going to update the brand colors and fonts. And we're going to, thankfully, most of these have their own photos. So I don't have to search for stock images, nothing major. We're going to crank these out. But we know how it goes, and life sometimes is lifing. And it was summer, and I spotted a few that the layout just wasn't working as well. So I had to tweak it. Let me just tweak it a little bit. Then from there, I was noticing like I had to move on to searching for the keywords of what's trending for these individual industries. And so what I thought would be a quick boost to the descriptions caused me to get a little behind on that. And not behind, but just taking longer than expected because I start working 5 days before it's due for this reason. Then I was thinking for some of them, let's map out, or what do I need to request for the upcoming months? Like, let's go ahead and start thinking ahead of time. I'm already here, so I might as well help future me get ahead so that I think myself later. And before I knew it, like, I had gone down this full optimization rabbit hole for clients, cleaning up workflows and strategies, like with images and how do I organize them so I can quickly find them, and, tweaking my own process, adjusting things. And I realized it had been well over time. Like, it took me all day. I didn't even get to my own marketing task that day. That one quick update just kind of turned into a full-blown overhaul, which in theory was good. It'll make me more productive tomorrow or next week, next month. But the problem was now I was late or missing the ability to grow my own business, which I know we hear that all the time. I was now rushing to get my own tasks done to keep my own self visible, and felt guilty for not giving my own business the attention that it deserves because I am my own client too. And ended the day wondering, what did I do? But that's something that can happen every week to not just me, but to everybody. You start one small task, you let it spiral and end up behind, potentially stressed out and feeling like you're always catching up. It's just like a rock that's rolling downhill. But I always at least try when I'm starting to feel this way, and I've included my husband in this, is instead of beating myself up and about potentially running late or taking longer to complete a task, I decide or have him remind me that it's a win. They got extra time and dedication to not only help them do better and perform better on Pinterest, but I've nurtured that relationship so that now the client has a beautiful Pinterest presence that's going to serve them for months to come. And then they hopefully will now speak my name in rooms basically that I'm not in or able to be in. So if someone is looking for Pinterest specifically, which is rare, but it happens, or they're looking for ways to just diversify their marketing, they put my name out there so that more people can reach me.
Yes, it can seem, what's the word? It can seem like, again, like you're putting all your effort into this one person. But what I see sometimes too, when you are putting the effort and you're like, okay, what if I can do this for my clients? I've been there too with my clients as well, trying to make sure that their business and their operations and their teams are running smoothly, to making sure that at the end of the day, at the end of the week, that they have everything done. I would like to make sure that, my clients are good to go, right? And I think that's showing that we care. And yeah, it sucks that we missed our take on marketing our own businesses, but great talk. When somebody talks about you in a great way and they say, can you believe that Dana did this for me? Like, this is amazing. And they're going to start talking. We want that. We want that reputation to get built in a way that people are coming to you. And yes, we might have slipped on our own stuff, but what if that client sees that you're working great on their stuff? They're going to say, hey, look, you should hire her. And now you get another client. Yeah. You never know what happens. And I think a lot of us too, we do put our businesses on the back burner only because we want to continue to build those relationships with our clients. We want to continue to do that. So there's pros and cons to it. We have to making sure that we put that buffer or set a timer or do something in a way that we're not feeling like we didn't do anything. Because there have been days when I'm like, what did I do today? Like, I don't know.
And that's something I feel like also needs to be recognized, or obviously like light bulb, But you don't know what you don't know. And I don't say that in to be a mean way or anything, but like something that trips up a lot of us, which we already mentioned a little bit, is time blindness.
Mhm.
And it's not about being lazy or disorganized or even slow. It's just a real cognitive hiccup where your brain just isn't great at accurately gauging how much time is passing. Because, like, I'm not really good at spatial awareness. I cannot look at something like, oh, that's 3 feet away from me. No idea.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for me. My brain just doesn't do it. It's not trained for that. So for us creatives, when we hit the fun parts of a project, like the strategy for me, or the design if you're a wedding planner, or the problem solving if you're an operations manager, our brains light up like a Christmas tree. We're in the zone and we're flowing and we're loving it. We don't really want it to stop. But while we're deep in that creative high, we completely forget about the hidden time eaters, gremlins, whatever, that start setting up files or managing admin, which I don't think I know anyone that enjoys it other than a virtual assistant.
I
Or
do.
even the mental cost. Like, I started as a virtual assistant and I was like, yeah, I love the admin tasks. I don't love the admin tasks, which is why we pivoted to something else that does light me up. But that's the mental cost of switching between tasks can also cause you to have, is it like decision paralysis, where you just don't know how to take a step forward. So another sneaky culprit is like, we tend to plan on the perfect vision of how your day goes. You wake up in the morning and it's almost like Pinterest perfect. You're going to wake up at 5:30 a.m. and you're going to get your workout in. You're going to journal and you're going to read. And then you're going to wake up your kids and they're not going to be angry at all. They're going to wake up perfectly and they're going to get dressed on time and they're going to eat breakfast on time and they're going to get in the car on time. You're not going to hit traffic to drive them to or from school. You're going to make it to your co-working space or back home to your she shed where you work. And there will be no hiccups, no fires, no nothing. But that's just not how real life works. I wish it did. We might get really close, but real life has messy reality built into it. And so there's always the need for a plan B. And that's the wedding planner coming out in me, is you always have an exit strategy and alternative method. Your laptop is going to update. I did that yesterday, actually. Your kid, if they stay at home, is going to need a snack or they're going to get a boo-boo. The Canva file will mysteriously disappear into the abyss, or a Google Doc. We just figured that out before this call. Like, when we don't account for these potential seemingly funny, because they're not happening in real time right now, these time eaters, this messy reality sets us up for feeling behind, rushed, or like we're constantly playing catch up. The good news is, once you understand that time blindness and you include it as part of the equation, you can start building in those little buffers, breaking projects into more realistic, smart goal like chunks, and then getting intentional about when you're actually going to dive into those brain lighting tasks so they don't take over your whole day.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes to all of that. I love how you said, taking a project and breaking it up into chunks. That is the operations in me. That is something that I love to do, right? When I set up like a project management tool for my clients and for our podcast, it's the same thing, right? So there's so many things that go into creating a podcast. And with that, you have to make sure that you don't have to do everything all at once. When you're creating Pinterest content, when you're creating a podcast, everything, it doesn't have to be all done in one day, because again, it's going to take a while. So you have to break it up. Like, okay, today I'm going to work on writing the content for the show notes, for the newsletter. And then tomorrow I will create social media captions, whatever it is, because if you do everything all at once, it's going to seem extremely overwhelming. And then when you're building and growing your team, then you can separate all those little tasks out to somebody else to do. So yes, going back to the workflows and the operating procedures, making sure that everything is mapped out so that you don't miss anything and so that you can create your calendar, your time management for the week. If you are a podcaster or have a podcast agency, there is a lot that goes on in your podcast. But when you are affected by time blindness, things happen that you don't want to happen. And this includes episode delays, unlike internal business tasks, missed podcast deadlines are visible to your entire audience. Team coordination chaos. This means that because podcast involves more people who depend on realistic timelines, you have to ensure that there are timelines met. When you underestimate interview prep or editing time, you end up having to reschedule guests and delivering rushed content, and content quality suffers, with the rushing through research, editing, or show notes because you underestimated impacts of the final product. So if you're wondering how you can create a better workflow so that you're not blinded by the time, then we definitely should talk. So all that information you can find in the show notes.
For those that are listening and tuning in, hopefully you're not feeling down and you're feeling inspired. I would like to take a shift to maybe more fun part of the what's going to work with our brains. So I'm all about a framework and don't like being told what to do, but I do like to plan out things regardless. And doing it in a fun way makes it not feel like I'm telling myself what to do, even though in theory, yes, that's what I'm doing. So I'm a big baby steps type of person. So for a time management focused framework, start with micro step mapping. This is where you grab notebook. If you're one of those and you just have to write it down, you get a Google Doc. You do however works for you. If you want to have 5,000 Post-its on your wall, do it. But list every single step of one task, like research, setup, admin, revisions, every step, even the 5 minutes it takes you to find your Canva brand kit, every granular detail piece. When you map it out, you stop losing those tiny steps that eat up the day. You start to see how can you stack them. Is there a step that you don't even need and you didn't realize you were doing? Everything. Next, we want to energy match to that map process, like that mapped out process. Your brain has a natural rhythm, and trying to force it to be on a rhythm that doesn't work is going to slow you down, get you frustrated. So you want to match it to how you work. So schedule your high focus tasks, like if this is for you, like writing copy or designing pins during your personal peak hours. Then save your lighter, lower focus tasks for when your brain is running on low battery. You'll get more done in less time without feeling drained. For me, this is why I was happy school went back, because my locked in high focus tasks get done when my kids are in school. Any of my admin tasks, like responding to my inbox, will happen when they get home, because it doesn't take as much time or energy focus. I'm just clearing it out, quickly responding and moving on, not dreading or rabbit holing, none of that. The next step is context switch. So every time you get pulled away by an email or a Slack ping, a dog barking, your roof's getting worked on, who knows what, it takes between 5 to 20 minutes to get back in deep focus. I know for me, it just depends on the day. And as someone who already has like attention problems anyway, I'm probably more on the 20-minute side of things on any given day. And that's just how even a normal brain works, is you have to regroup and reset and refocus. So hopefully you're on the 5-minute side and you can just pop back in. But if you struggle with it like me, you have to have that 20-minute buffer built in throughout the day. So when you plan your time, add that in. So if interruptions happen, or not even when, if they happen, when they happen, we're not going to pretend that they don't. Include that in so that you don't have back-to-back meetings or you're rushing from one project immediately into the next one. Give yourself 20 minutes to get up, walk around, reset, refocus, and sit back down to do what it is that you need to do. And then finally, it's called the teaching test. Imagine you're training a brand new hire on this task. How much time would you tell them to block off to do it well? If you can't answer that question, how do you know you're doing it well? That's your real number So if you wouldn't tell them, oh, this will only take you 20 minutes and you know it takes an hour, you're already setting yourself up for like an overwhelmed helicopter moment of watching your team, but you're also setting your team members up for failure too and overwhelm because you're not being real about how much time it takes you to do something. So when you use these four tools together, you stop underestimating your workload and start building a realistic, sustainable day. And then you'll actually see the needle move forward and let go of the guilt of feeling behind.
I love like the context switch because we have to give ourselves time. Again, going back to grace. This is the wonderful thing of working from home and working for yourself is that you can get up out of your desk without being told, go back to your desk. I've worked in an office where I was the only one that would get up and walk around. I would walk around, I would do a task and get up and walk around, go back, get up, and I would get my work done. And I always got chewed out for it. Why are you constantly getting up? Why does it matter, right? So not everybody is meant to sit for 8 hours a day. I cannot do it. And I think that could be another thing to tie into your calendar too. I'm going to tell myself that this is going to take an hour and a half to do, but it may be a shorter time because I want, giving yourself time. And then now at the end of the day, you have all this other time blank on your calendar. Now you can do other things as well. Sticking with what you can. Don't overbook yourself, giving yourself the buffers in between meetings. One thing that I've come to realize is that we have to pause before we say yes. And what I mean by this is, yes, of course, especially when you're starting out, you want to take on all these opportunities and think that you're going to have time to do all of this, but you have to be realistic with yourself and with everything that is going on in your life. I remember, I think a couple years ago, I was saying yes to all these things. And then all of a sudden I was realizing like, I have no time for myself. Like, what about me? And it's not selfish to think about that. And so unfortunately I had to cut back. I had to tell all these people, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I can no longer be a part of this. This is not working out for me. And I felt guilty because I said yes. But then I was like, wait a minute. No, I don't have to feel guilty. Like, this is how I want to grow my business. This is how I want to grow my life. This is what I want to do. And if this person doesn't respect that, then they're not meant to be in your space.
I think that's become, as I'm going into a busy season with fall and stuff, is I'm allowing myself, let me check my calendar first before I say something. Or I just send them my link that already has everything built out to my boundaries of here's when I actually want to talk to someone. And then that helps protect my time and sanity that much easier. I don't have to stress about it. Hopefully they're all like, very rarely does it glitch or have an issue and I get double booked or something. Very rarely does that happen, thankfully. But it just allows me, one, to get it out of my head. So I'm not only protecting my sanity, but now I'm almost romanticizing my time because I'm not stressing it out with back-to-back things. And I feel like I can get stuff done because I have that breathing room to actually look and reflect on it.
Just know that you have your boundaries. You know what your boundaries are. And I encourage you to stick with them. And if you are just like, I don't know what to do, then have a conversation with somebody, like somebody that you trust, see what they think. I know I've had many of conversations this past week just to get things out of my head to make sure that I'm setting my own boundaries. And it definitely helps.
I like that. I think if anyone has questions, they should reach out to us. And hopefully this helped relieve some pressure off of your shoulders. But all the like time blindness and setting realistic planning into your day-to-day really affects everything that you do, from marketing to team management to any sort of business growth. It's about finding that balancing act because you have to live in the creative and the logical at both times because you work for, like you said, you work for yourself. So time blindness isn't a character flaw. It's time management. On the flip side is a skill that we absolutely can develop. So start with one thing, which was that we recommended, which is tracking your time on one recurring task this week. And then next week, do another recurring task. And you might be a bit surprised by what you discovered. And I hope you guys will share it with us. You might be wondering, what does all of this talk about time blindness and realistic planning have to do with Pinterest? Honestly, literally everything. Pinterest is one of those platforms where small, intentional actions done consistently over time pay off way more than frantic all-at-once bursts. When you understand your own time patterns, you can build a pinning workflow that fits your life instead of fighting against it. That might look like batching graphics when you're in a creative zone, writing pin descriptions when you're fresh in the morning, or scheduling content ahead so you're not relying on last-minute inspiration. The point is, you don't have to live on Pinterest to make it work for your business. You just need a time-smart plan that you'll actually stick to. And when you do, it becomes this quiet, consistent visibility machine working in the background so you can focus on the parts of your business that light you up.
All of our information is going to be in the show notes. Until next time.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at URembert for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.